Roger, operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Another wild local gun story. Ed Runyon has a report published September 9th after a 13-year-old boy accidentally shot himself, according to the article. Now, the report states that the child was rushed to the hospital, and on the date of the report was still in stable condition. Now, the continued effort to keep guns out of the hands of children is what got the story in. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. Mental health hits the local radar. Dan Pompley has a report published September 9th in the Vindicator explaining how upgrades in local mental health care is being taken into consideration. Now, the report states that suicides are down, but they're still too high in a push for more resources and more awareness on what resources are already available when it comes to stuff like suicide and other things. Now, the fact that September is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month is what got this story in, folks. The entire article is filled with mental health and suicide prevention information, thus getting this story into the top 8. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. $1 million to Akron Children's Hospital. The Vindicator has a staff report published September 9th after Kakil Charitable Trust has, I guess they donated $1 million to Akron Children's Hospital of Mahoning Valley. Now, since 2011, Kakil Estate has, I guess they've given more than $8 million to the hospital. That's a lot of money. Now, what got this story in is because, according to Newsweek, I guess Akron Children's Hospital has been named the number at the top. This is the top pediatric hospital in the United States. That is amazing. That's why story number 3 made it. Story number 4. Why the Ursula story is in top headlines. Zach Mosca has a report from WFMJ out of Youngstown keeping the Ursula football story in top headlines in what appears to be a second lawsuit filed against Ursuline High School in a very hefty sexual allegations case. Now, the report cites assault, harassment, and menace of a female student. Now, this is after a federal civil rights lawsuit was filed against Ursuline High School and its football program for a hazing incident that has been in consistent recent headlines. Now, the article states that the alleged conduct began in June of 2023, and I guess nothing was done about it when it was reported in 2023. So that's what's keeping the story trending. Now, the article is detailed and graphic when it comes to private chats being exposed to the public. The report is long and really homes in on what is unfolding in the Ursuline case, folks. The story is still still trending. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. Homicide rates are down in the homicide rate is down in Youngstown. And Runyon has a report published September 6th out of the Vindicator explaining how the homicide rate in Youngstown has fallen to 56%. Now, the report begins by giving Police Chief Carl Davis and FBI task force the credit for the reductions. Now, the report explains how this is a first since, I guess, as far back as 1967. Now, the report ends with some stats stating that in the last 12 months ending October 31st of 2025, there were 67 shooting victims in the city, which the report says is a 56.6% drop from the 12-month period ending August 31st of 2021, which stood at 151 shootings. So that's a big drop. Now, this is a big difference, folks. That's getting the story to the top 8. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6, targeting young voters. WFMJ has a report out a report about, I guess, voter registration. I guess they've been having a voter registration drive at YSU targeting young first-time voters. Now, the report, which stems from the Pew Research Group, shows that a lot of young voters are still on the sidelines, folks. That's getting the story to the top 8. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2, because we're talking about voting headed into election season. That's what got the story almost into the top 2. Big headline. Story number 7 of the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week, folks. If you don't get up this early and you do want to check out the show, I do upload it to the website on Monday. So if you don't get up at 6:30 a.m. and you do want to check out the website, which everybody literally has a podcast right now, you can check out the show on our website. I do post it to the YouTube page to put it in records. Now, I don't do this for views like some people do. Well, bro, you only got about 10 or 3 views, but I just do it because I'm just following the mission statement of this beautiful company. So if you do want to check it out, I do upload to the website. I'm not paying for views. Sometimes I do go click and watch the show myself, or I'll click it a few times just to try to give it a little bit. But I'm not in the business of this is all organic, folks. Story number 7. No big beauty in Trumbull County. Big beautiful bill. Raymond L. Smith has a report out of the Vindicator September 5th stating that federal and state laws in the big beautiful bill, I guess, that passed the House of Representatives and it was signed by the president, they said it will reduce the amount of money received by local governments. So that's what's happening in Trumbull County. Now, the report says that nutrition assistance recipients will be affected the most. The report is really informative when it comes to who will be impacted, citing work requirements and a dramatic increase, I guess, increases in the workload for caseworkers, folks. The report touches a little on what effect property taxes will have on the county also, I guess, but that's really what got the story to the top 8, because whenever you regulate and make people have to work for their benefits, then yeah, caseworkers will be busy. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big B. Story number 8 at the top. Local headline and developing news story that made it this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, order a sponsor program, or you can stop at the store at 5648 Mark Street in Bournemouth, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Story number 8. Water prices going up. Sheen Barrett has a report out of Campbell that will affect Struthers, Louisville, Poland Village, New Middletown, Springfield, Coatesville, Poland again, Canfield, Boardman Township, and all of Aqua, Ohio's customers in Mahoning County. The report goes on to say that beginning January 1st, customers will see a 5% water rate increase per 1,000 gallons of water usage. Now, the report explains the dollar amount that Aqua Ohio has already invested, along with $11 million in property taxes. Now, with the increase, I guess $340,000 I guess that's dollars would come in annually. So that's $340,000 that will come in annually for general operating expenses, which the article says will help fund the police, fire, street, and other departments. That's almost word for word in the report. That's why the rate made it to the top this week, because a lot of stuff continues to rise, and once the water bills start going up, that's going to be another hefty expense. Well, folks, our top 8 local headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. The media to be Brad West. I'll be right back. Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, we are yet at another time in history where people are doing, just horrendous things. And some people were finding out that they're making conscious decisions to take other people's lives and put matters into their own hands. What's amazing about today's world is that, I'm a creative person. Now, all my life, I've probably been considered unusual because I've always liked to be creative, and I've never probably been the average because all I've ever done is write and want to write some more. But I'm not gonna lie, being a writer, and you have to tap into people's thoughts, and you have to try to read, and you have to read more and more every day, and you find out there's so many schools of thinking, there's so many ways of doing something. And I'm a self-published writer, so I had to do it the hardcore way. I didn't get any deals, I didn't get any big endorsements, but I've always wrote about, when I started, I was writing about angels and demons and Jesus. And when you're a writer, you're playing with two sides, the antagonist, protagonist. But writing now is difficult. I can't say it's difficult, but the world has changed so much. This is not fundamental stuff. You have people who are literally psychotic, and when you write about these things, you have to be gentle because a writer is not just going to just think about that. Years ago, people were just dying and having diseases, and there were not too many doctors to cure them. Now we live in an environment where you literally have medicine, you have science, you have computers everywhere, and people are still, going to die. But being a writer, you're like, oh my God, I have to write about a girl going into a school where there's metal detectors all around. You don't know who's got the gun, but somebody's been dipping in mama's passion potion in the basement. Then you have to write about drug addicts, people who are literally sniffing on the Buddha, and they just magically start floating into another person's chemistry set, pulls out a gun, and kills a famous politician. Folks, we have seen things happen in the past. I've read about pharaohs, and they talk about how their wives would be possessed, and they take their wives to a priest to try to get her chemically healed because she would just all of a sudden start spreading her loins all over the village. Folks, what we're seeing in today's environment is not new. It's just the fact that we have a advanced chemistry set that people are tapping into. People are getting high. People are getting higher, and they're doing things that other people will consider unusual, folks. As a child, I never thought I'd see the day where children had to be escorted to school. Well, in my time, my life, in the 20-something 2000s, where you'd have to write about children having bodyguards. 2-year-old girls having to walk to safety with a rifle, with people dressed in all black uniforms with machine guns. Folks, I can't say we're living in unusual times, but I can say we're living in unique times where you could just be sitting out. Folks, I want to give my presentation. Pow! Oh Lord, Johnny's down. Johnny's down. Is he still alive? Folks, we are living in this is probably worse than, I guess, the Kennedy assassination or when presidents get assassinated, because right now anybody could get assassinated. You could be the top drug dealer in town, hated by everybody. You could have 3 bodyguards. One might not show up, and The drug dealer be in town, nobody will touch him. You could be a scholar coming in, you got all accolades, a big asset to the world. You could be on somebody's hit list. Hoo-wee. Folks, I guess I'm gonna sing. I haven't sung a song in a while. I guess I'll sing a song. Peace. Peace is unique because peace is peace. Woo! Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. What is private equity and why does it matter? NPR has an interesting report explaining what happens when private equity buys homes. The report says that this makes rents go down and diversity go up, but it makes it harder for people to own a home. Now, the article is an eye-opening piece for real estate investors, but really highlights how private equity is shifting the tides when it comes to home ownership. Private equity is when, if you did not know, it's when investors pool money to buy and improve companies, and I guess that aren't publicly traded on a stock exchange. Now, firms that do this then work to increase the company's value by later selling the property for a profit. Now, in residential terms, the firms treat the property as a financial asset, seeking the maximum profit through rent increases, fees, and property value appreciation. That's why story number 1 made it this week, because they're talking about private equity and how it could be changing how the housing market is it is right now. Big. Story number 2. What is unique about free child care for all? Who pays, folks? The Guardian has a report out of New Mexico explaining how it's the first state to offer free child care for all. The headline states that this could be a model for the nation. The report states that this will help tens of thousands of people get out of poverty, but the report falls short of explaining who will foot the bill. The report calls it an investment, but doesn't mention what the return will be for this investment, which highlights everything being done in regards to child care. Now, this story is still developing because the children could be the return on the investment. You know, I guess that's if you're investing in kids, I guess they're going to be the ones who's going to give the return back when it comes down to you investing in the children once they reach mature age, because I guess they may be the ones who pay back the investment. That's why story number 2 made it. Story number 3. What's behind the $4 billion hold on foreign aid? NBC has a headline stating that the Supreme Court will temporarily allow Trump to withhold $4 billion in foreign aid. The report is brief and really just lays out this one point. Now, the continued adjustments by the Trump administration when it comes to spending is what got the story in. That's why story number 3 made it. Story number 4. What happened in Atlanta? The Atlanta Journal-Constitution states that unprecedented immigrant raids at a Hyundai EV site, I guess, has led to 475 arrests. Now, the report states that this was, I guess, the largest single immigration raid in the history of Homeland Security investigations. Now, this story made it in because I guess this bust took place at a 3,000-acre meta plant site, which was a $12.6 billion project that included a battery facility and has been touted as Georgia leaders. I guess by Georgia leaders, it was touted as the largest economic development deal in the state's history. Now, the entire bust paused construction and has Hyundai, I guess, executives in the hot seat. And this story is still developing, folks, because nobody was expecting this, and I guess they had illegals working in the plant. Now they're being exported out of the country. Well, folks, there are top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'm right back with top 4. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brad West. I'm right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made this week, folks. Yes, we are living. And it's still a great time to be alive. You got to be optimistic. You got to think positive. And I've been reading a lot of books about balance and how you got to balance your life out. And so I try to keep things balanced, and I try to be good, and then I'll maybe try to do one bad thing just to balance things out. And, it gets confusing sometimes when you got to be balanced, because you'll wake up and you'll be like, oh my God, I'm being too good. You go out and smack somebody. I'm sorry, DC, I'm sorry. What you smack me for? Well, you do nothing. I do nothing. They be like, oh, I just got to do something bad. I got to balance things out. But you ain't got to smack me. You just get up, start smacking yourself, touching yourself or something just to balance things out, And it's sad, because when you try to balance things out, people be trying to get me to go to church. I used to go to church all the time. I mean, my whole life was based around church. I was at church so much, people thought I was a reverend. Bro, you gonna start preaching, you gonna preach. I used to preach. Then the Holy Lord would wake us up and we'd be balanced and be blessed. But evil sometimes is good. And when you're doing evil, you feel good. But when you get over it, you feel like trash. And that's why evil has to turn to good sometimes. Things have to be balanced. They say, amen. People, I get standing ovations. That brother is good. That brother is good. No, he's not. He's evil. I remember one day I was in a Bible study. You talk about people going to church and stuff. I used to go to church dressed all nice. And one day I was in Bible study, and I tell you, sometimes you got to balance things out. You got to be good one day, because if you don't, people think you're strange. That brother's too good. He gonna be walking on water pretty soon. We're gonna have to do something to that brother. Get him some legs or something. Get him some women. So I'm in church, and everybody was praying, and I said, everybody, let's all join hands. And they all looked at me and said, Brian is good. He's good. And I said one thing, I told you I got to balance things out, I say, let's all join hands and pray for the devil. They looked at, oh Lord, this brother lost it. And the reverend got on, he said, oh. And I tell you, sometimes you got to balance things out. And I say, well, everybody keeps blaming him for what they doing. They keep blaming it on the devil. You do something bad, you don't want to take accountability, you just shot somebody, well, stand up. And I'm not gonna lie, when I did that, I did turn some heads. But one thing I do learn as a creative person is I do make people think, folks. So that's my story this week. Is let's try to balance things out by being good and too good, baby. And if you're in church, don't say nothing about praying for the devil, because that is not a way, I guess, to get holy riders in the right mood for Jesus. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to story number 5. Praying for love, peace, and happiness. How about that? Something different is happening in Trump's economy. One USA Today headline says that a number of moms are leaving their jobs. I guess the report cites cost and basic human needs as a factor. Now, another report by NBC News states that new tariffs rules are bringing maximum chaos as surprise charges hit consumers. Now, some consumers are seeing bills from UPS for approximately $1,400 on a part worth $750, folks. Wow. That's showing something different happening in Trump's economy, especially when it comes to tariff. That's story number 5. Story number 6. Red versus blue cities. What does the data show? Data shows that crime is decreasing, but depending on where you live, the residents of cities, rather, I guess, in blue or red, say that they have been screaming for help for years when it comes to attention being drawn on what really is going on in their community, especially in Chicago and in D.C. Now, if anything comes out of Trump's rants when it comes to crime in blue cities, even in red cities, it seems that that he has put the attention on the residents that have been screaming for help for years in these cities. Now, many who, according to the news on the grounds, they see this as their time to speak out, especially when you listen to read the radio. Now, The Guardian has a report that reports it from a different, data-driven angle, while the radio points are approaching the residential standpoint and getting their testimonies, and they're saying that they've been overlooked well, by onlookers in a different, but it gives you a different view, folks. This story is still developing. So they're saying that they've been overlooked for years, and now they're getting a voice because I guess the president has put the attention on this. So story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big story number 7 of the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks. If you don't get up this early, you can check out the show on our website. I do post it on the website on Mondays. Like I said, everybody's got a podcast. I'm not trying to get views. Some of these shows only have maybe like 2 or 10 views, but if you do want to check it out, if you do want to see what's going on news, get up to date, I do upload the top 8 on the website on Monday. Story number 7, the report card shows declines. NPR has a headline showing drops in science, math, and reading scores. The report cites Trump's cuts to the U.S. Education Department as a factor, which included laying off more than half the workers at the Institute of Education Science, IES. Now, and I guess a few other departments responsible for monitoring student achievement. So the report shows declines across the board, thus getting the story to the top 8. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big. Story number 8 at the top international headline and developing news story that made this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do want to show the show some support, this basic economic tool to keep people informed, you can check out the website on the screen. Buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, order, sponsor a program, or you can stop by the store at 1540 Mark Street in Bournemouth, Ohio, and see my smiling face, buy something in the store. Store number 8. What now after a bad jobs report? What now? ABC News states that the U.S. economy added 911,000 fewer jobs than previously reported. The report goes on further by explaining Trump's stance when it comes to what is causing the downturn in economic expectations, but falls short when informing the reader of what is being done to create jobs. Now, there are trickles of stories and headlines focusing on deals being made by the president with U.S. companies, but with this report, this report has little impact on what is actually coming out in the details, because companies aren't really telling what's actually happening. I guess that's what's keeping the story alive, because U.S. companies are not giving their higher. I guess they're not. The president is making deals with big companies, but the small businesses where most of the jobs are not telling what's their story. So the story is still developing. So story rate made to the top this week because the jobs report. Everybody's looking to make money, and without jobs you can't really do it. Well, folks, our top 8 local and international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the Mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your news stories just to keep people informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, order, sponsor a program, or you can stop by the store at 5640 Mark Street in Bournemouth, Ohio. See my smiling face. Well, folks, I'm out of here. I'll be back next week. Lord willing, looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens.